The pit bull wrapped his paws around the sleeping baby and refused to let go. When Emily tried to lift her son from the crib, Max growled at her, her own dog blocking her from her own child. She reached for her phone to call animal control. But then she saw something behind the crib that made her freeze. Before you watch, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this one. And write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Emily had not slept more than 3 hours in a row for weeks. Baby Ethan had colic, crying through the nights until her head hurt and her eyes could barely focus. Her husband, Michael, worked nights at the factory, leaving her alone in their small home with a crying baby and growing tiredness. She had started making errors, putting milk in the cabinet, forgetting to lock the front door, once even leaving the stove on for 2 hours after warming formula. Max, their 5-year-old pit bull, had been part of their family since before Ethan was born. Michael's father had given them the dog as a puppy, and Max had always been gentle, a large, strong animal with the nature of a lamb. When Emily brought Ethan home from the hospital, Max had sniffed the baby once and lay down beside the bassinet like a watchful guard. Perfect, she had thought, the perfect family. But 3 weeks ago, something shifted. Max began staying near Ethan's crib all the time. At first, Emily thought it was sweet, even protective. But then the actions grew stronger. Max would stand between her and the baby whenever she came close. When she reached for Ethan, Max would softly but firmly push her hand away with his large head. Once he had even grabbed the edge of Ethan's blanket in his mouth and tried to pull the bassinet across the room. "Michael, I mean it," Emily said one morning, her voice breaking from tiredness and worry. "He's becoming too attached. It's not normal." Michael rubbed his tired eyes. He had just come home from work and wanted only to sleep. Max has never hurt anyone in his life." "I'm not saying he has hurt anyone yet," she said sharply, right away feeling bad about her tone. "I'm saying his actions are changing. He won't let me near my own baby." "Our baby," Michael said softly. "And Max is probably just being watchful. Dogs can tell when babies need care." "This isn't watchful, Michael. I don't know what this is, but it scares me." Michael let out a breath, the kind of deep, worn-out sigh that comes from two people too tired to talk properly. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to think about keeping him outside, or at least away from the nursery." The words hung between them like a broken promise. They had never even thought about giving up Max, but being so tired makes people say things they don't mean, or maybe things they're too scared to admit they're thinking. The stress in the house grew heavier over the next few days. Max's actions got worse. He would lie across the nursery doorway, making Emily step over him. When she picked up Ethan to feed him, Max would follow right behind her, making soft crying sounds in his throat. His eyes never left the baby. Dark, focused, never blinking. One night, Emily hit her limit. Ethan had been screaming for 3 hours without stopping. Nothing helped. Not feeding, not changing, not rocking, not singing. Her ears buzzed with the sound, her body shook with tiredness. When she finally got Ethan to sleep and put him in the crib, Max right away jumped up and pressed his body against the crib bars. "Max, no," she whispered harshly, trying not to wake Ethan. "Move." Max did not move. "Max, I swear to God." He turned his head toward her, and for the first time in 5 years, she saw something in his eyes that made her go cold. Not anger, something worse. Despair. "Get out," she whispered, pointing at the door. "Out now." Max cried softly, a sound so sad it made her heart hurt despite her anger. But he did not move from his spot beside the crib. Emily grabbed his collar. Max fought back, planting his feet, his muscles tight under her grip. They had never struggled like this before. She pulled harder. He pulled back, his eyes fixed on the crib. I said, "Get out." Her voice grew loud, sharp, and frantic. Ethan moved a little but did not wake. Max's ears went flat against his head, but still he would not move. That's when Emily made up her mind. Tomorrow, Max would stay outside. She could not do this anymore. Could not battle her own dog to reach her own child. She let go of his collar and left the room, closing the door behind her. Max's weight pressed against it from the other side right away. The next morning came with soft winter light coming through frost-covered windows. Emily woke up on the couch where she had fallen asleep, her neck stiff, her eyes burning. She could hear Ethan making soft sounds from the nursery, awake but happy for once. The rare sound of a content baby filled her with relief. She walked slowly down the hall, already planning how she would tell Michael about her choice about Max. The nursery door was open just a bit. She pushed it open. Max stood stiff beside the crib, his body tight, every muscle ready. When Emily came in, he did not look at her. Instead, he barked, sharp, wild, fierce. The sound burst through the small room. Ethan started crying right away. "Max, what the hell?" Emily moved toward the crib. Max jumped between her and Ethan, not attacking but blocking. He barked again, a sound of pure warning. Then he did something that made her stop cold. He wrapped both front paws around Ethan, pulling the baby close against his chest, and started backing away from the wall. "Max, stop. You're going to hurt him." But Max was not hurting Ethan. He was guarding him. His body curved around the baby like armor. His head twisted back toward the wall behind the crib. His lips pulled back from his teeth. Emily's anger faded away, replaced by confusion. Then fear. "What is it? What do you see?" She stepped around Max slowly and looked at the wall behind the crib. Nothing clear, the same wall that had been there yesterday, last week, last month. The same power outlet partly hidden behind the crib frame. The same... Wait. Emily moved closer. A faint smell hung in the air. Not dirty diapers, not old milk. Something harsh, something burning. Her eyes found the outlet again. Was that dark staining? A dark mark on the white plastic cover? And there, barely visible, a thin thread of smoke rising from behind the outlet plate. Time froze. Everything Emily thought she knew shifted in a moment. Max's hovering, his refusal to leave the nursery, his frantic tries to move the crib. He had not been jealous. He had been trying to alert them. "Oh my God," she breathed, then louder. "Oh my God." She grabbed Ethan from Max's shielding hold, her hands shaking so badly she almost let him fall. Max did not resist now. He watched her, breathing hard, his tail wagging a little as if to say, "Finally, finally, you get it." Emily ran from the room. Ethan held tight against her chest. In the living room, she grabbed her phone with shaking fingers. 911. The numbers blurred. She could hardly press them. 911, what's your emergency? "There's a fire," Emily gasped. "An electrical fire in my baby's room. Behind the wall, there's smoke. Ma'am, I need you to leave the house right now. Take your baby and anyone else and get outside now." Emily was already moving, struggling with the front door. Max pressed against her legs as if rushing her to safety. The cold morning air hit her face like a blow. She stumbled onto the front lawn with bare feet, wearing only pajamas, Ethan crying in her arms. Neighbors came out of their homes, worried by the noise. Mrs. Wilson from next door hurried over with a blanket. "Emily, what happened?" "The wall," Emily said, her teeth chattering. "The wall in Ethan's room, it was burning." Fire trucks came within 6 minutes, their sirens cutting through the morning quiet. Firefighters in heavy gear rushed into the house. Emily stood on the lawn, watching helplessly as they went inside with axes and fire tools. Max sat pressed against her legs, his warm body the only thing keeping her from falling down. Michael got there 20 minutes later, having received her panicked call while leaving the factory. His face was white with fear. "Are they okay?" he asked Mrs. Wilson, who pointed to where Emily stood, Ethan wrapped in blankets, both of them safe. He ran to them, wrapping his arms around Emily and Ethan, his body shaking with relief. Max pushed himself into the hug, and for once no one moved him away. A fire chief came to them an hour later, his face grave. "You got lucky," he said directly. The wiring behind that outlet had been breaking down for weeks, maybe months. It finally got hot enough to set fire to the material inside the wall. Another hour, maybe 2, and you would have had a full house fire. Emily's legs gave out. Michael caught her, keeping her standing. "We didn't even smell anything," Michael said, his voice empty. "You wouldn't have until it was too late," the chief answered. The fire was trapped inside the wall space. By the time smoke came through to the room, it would have spread everywhere. Your son's crib was right against where the fire started. "The dog," Emily heard herself say. "Our dog knew." The chief looked at Max, who sat alert and watchful at Emily's feet. Dogs can sense heat changes and strange smells long before people can. His behavior probably saved your son's life. Saved your son's life. The words hit Emily like a wave. She dropped to her knees right there on the lawn and wrapped her arms around Max's thick neck. "I'm sorry," she whispered into his fur. "I'm so sorry. I thought you were the danger. I didn't understand." Max turned his big head and licked her face once, soft as a mother's kiss. In his dark eyes, she saw no blame, only the calm, timeless patience of a being who had known his purpose, even when no one else trusted him. Michael knelt beside them, his hand on Max's back. "He's staying right beside Ethan from now on," he said quietly. It was not a question. "Always," Emily agreed. "Always. Some protectors wear uniforms and carry badges. Others wear fur and ask for nothing but faith. What we fear often shields us from what we cannot see, and sometimes love looks exactly like a dog who refuses to leave." Did you enjoy this story? Would you have trusted your dog in that moment? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.